Sitting at a red light in Las Vegas hits different. Hits like a jab. Because at each red light, myself and others have to resign ourselves to the fact that we're completely stuck for a good 3 or 4 minutes. Traffic lights are especially long here, and as with any captive audience, it's a perfect time for someone to come sell you something. Our point of sale is a 6-lane intersection. The community is Las Vegas. This is Public Good, a podcast about public spaces and the people you find there. I'm the host, Ashina Lascano. Today we're hitting the streets of one of the nation's largest metro areas where a growing number of sidewalk vendors are arriving with goods from fresh roses to raspados. We'll speak with the sellers and ask what they offer, how they set up shop, and what it's like to do business with drive-by vehicles. We'll also speak with cultural anthropologist and professor Dr. Ivan Sandoval Cervantes about forces behind the street vending activity and what it says about the city's changing environment and overall way of life. We'll explore how this growing activity in the intersections may be reflective of a greater crossroads in the community. It's Saturday around midday. I've been driving around Las Vegas looking for these street vendors, these sidewalk street vendors. I came upon one off of a highway off-ramp, hooked a U-turn and parked in the parking lot of a Panda Express. It was slow going out the gate, trying to connect in a conversation with street vendors on the roads of Las Vegas. Got out of my car, got my interview equipment ready, and pressed the crosswalk button to make my way up to that freeway off-ramp, walking over debris. He was standing there with 2 large plastic storage tubs filled with water and a bunch of bouquets of flowers underneath these wide bath towels. Ultimately, I wasn't successful in getting a conversation. He apologized that he can only help with the flowers today. No interview. Only plants. No prattle. So I took a look at those flowers and bought myself a bouquet with nice red roses and some white roses and a big yellow sunflower in the middle. Thanked him for his time. He gave me a big, nice smile and made my way back down the freeway off-ramp and across the crosswalk and back to my car. So continuing on my journey today. So we have blooms, but no interview. I've moved to a more industrial area of town. There are 2 gas stations catty-corner to one another, big warehouse on another corner. Behind me, there's a giant self-car wash, which is creating quite a bit of noise. There's a gentleman on the corner with bouquets of flowers. He's walking in between cars, got a ball cap on and dressed in all black. It's got to be pretty hot out there. But he's going in between the cars, and we're going to go ask him if he'd be open to an interview.
Estoy vendiendo flores.
He's agreed to speak with us and confirms that he's also selling flowers.
Pues ya va más o menos.
He says business has been okay, and then we ask him about what types of flowers folks are buying.
Le gusta más el girasol.
Sunflowers.
El girasol. Y la rosa, más sobre todo la de color rojo.
And red roses. When we ask him if he always works in this location, he says he does.
Sí, aquí trabajo.
And when we ask him if he gets nervous with all the cars and people driving around, he says he doesn't.
No, lo normal. Nada más tengo que estar
It's normal. He doesn't get nervous, but he has to be constantly selling the flowers. He got used to that line of work. We started the day with 14 single dollar bills. $7 went to the first vendor we found with a bouquet of flowers, and the other 7 went to the second vendor with another bouquet of flowers. So need to get some additional cash to continue this day. And one of the ways that I do that, especially on the weekend when the banks are closed, I go to a grocery store and get it when I do the debit cash out option. So we're going to go ahead and try and get some additional bills to continue on this day. I'll take as many singles as you can give me, but
only give you 5. I'll push it.
I'll take it.
Okay.
Take what I can get.
Thank you.
All right, we have some money back in our bankroll. We have some nice cold water to keep us going. I'm also going to share this water with these 2 bouquets of flowers, keep them hydrated as well, and see if we can find another vendor. Looking for a food vendor specifically, if we can find them. Let's get in the car, keep going. From there, I started driving down a major thoroughfare in Las Vegas when a brightly colored umbrella caught my eye on one of the side streets. So I turned around and went to go investigate. There I found a gentleman underneath that multicolored umbrella, and he had a orange bicycle with a tabletop installed on top of it. And on top of the tabletop were a bunch of coolers, a bunch of different colored mismatched coolers. So I asked him what he's selling. Teniendo hoy.
Elotes, raspados, tostilocos, todo tipo de antojitos mexicanos.
He has elote, which is a Mexican street corn, also raspados, which are like Mexican snow cones, and he says he just has all types of Mexican treats and snacks. ¿Cómo ha estado su negocio?
Por el momento bien, todo bien. Sí.
We ask how business has been, and he says everything's good. And we ask him what the most popular item is. He confirms that it's that street corn, and especially in the summer when it's hot, he sells a lot of the raspados.
Se vende mucho el raspado.
When we ask about his best day for sales, he explains how it's tied to his location. He's next to a school, so Monday through Friday he sells a lot more, and on the weekends it's a little slower.
Nosotros vendemos en las escuelas y cuando se vende más, pues es de lunes a viernes. Ya los fines de semana se vende, pero se vende poco, regular.
Talking more about the location, we ask him if he always works there, and he says yes, he always does. And we ask him what he likes about it, is that here the people are very nice, and he's never found anyone mean or bad. We ask him if he ever has to worry when he comes to work, and he says no, not at all.
Oh, no, para nada.
We ask him whether he ever has to close early.
Sí, muchas veces.
And often he does, either because he runs out of product or because the weather turns.
El clima no está favorable para vender. Sí, por eso.
Another key question, do people tip?
Sí, mucho.
All right, let's get down to business.
Tengo hambre y quiero something.
Algo, claro.
Quiero un mango.
Sí, okay.
Luis is cutting the mango. It's a nice big mango. And he's putting it on a stick. Now he's got a peeler and he's peeling the mango. It looks like a nice juicy mango. And then he cuts off the remaining peel at the top. It's a nice large mango on a stick. He gets out a tray. Now he's making serrated marks on the mango, kind of opening it up like a big pine cone.
¿Quieres chamoy? ¿Tajín? Sí, okay.
And now the mango pine cone is all red and orange and very juicy still. And he's given me lots of napkins because he knows what's coming. Gracias. Wow.
Tómalo con fuerza. It's heavy.
All right, I got my very large mango on a stick sitting on the green grass. It's a very large mango. I got my work cut out for me. Oh my gosh, it's so sweet. And I love that kick of spice. It's very juicy. It's a very large mango, but I'm very hungry, so I might be able to make a dent in it. I believe I may have met my largest, most juiciest, most delicious mango. It's so good. I'm halfway through, and it's like a meal. It's like a mango is an entire meal. I feel really good about going to visit the sidewalk vendors today. I'm walking away with 2 giant bouquets of roses and flowers. I have a mango the size of my face inside of my belly. It's delicious. I was really surprised about how open and friendly they were to speak with me about their business, about their customers, about their products. It was really fun, and I'm really glad that I was able to connect with them, and it was really nice.
It's common in nature for animals to live in groups. It offers protection, provision, and economies of scale that would not otherwise be available if animals were operating individually or on their own. Humans live in groups, clustered in towns and cities. As part of peaceful existence together in our communities, it's common for us to observe, adopt, and reinforce shared behaviors, or social cues, especially in public and among strangers. We follow traffic, we wait our turn, we try to maintain personal sounds, smells, and clothing that minimize public disruption, even when we're not aware we're doing so. For example, we try to maintain orderly queues at the grocery store, and we try not to scream in public for no reason. These shared behaviors are an important signal of safety during those times we're out and about, so we don't have to be ready to fight or flight survival every time we walk out of our homes. In general, our instincts and conditioning tell us that safety, acceptance, and reward come from following those around us, while the possibility of danger, rejection, and punishment increases when we don't. This is the number one reason why I never purchased from a street vendor, because I don't see anyone else purchasing from a street vendor. The second reason is that any interaction with the vendor at the traffic stop would catch the eyes of every driver waiting for the light to turn. So I'd have maybe 15 to 50 pairs of stranger eyes focused directly on me, to say nothing of the pairs of eyes focused on the vendor. And the third reason is my perception that the whole situation is a ticking time bomb for social rejection. Because if the vendor and I are in the middle of a transaction and then the light changes, then the full wrath of the drivers following behind me is unleashed. And I get it. They've been waiting at this stop for several minutes, and now they're forced to wait on me to finish what I'm doing, and they're desperate to get past the light so they don't have to wait another 3 or 4 minutes. Street vendors target high traffic locations because it's high traffic. And it's also high pressure, high stress, enough to make me want another mango.
On the campus of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV, there is a series of buildings that make up Wright Hall, which houses the university's history, political science, and anthropology departments. Among the anthropology professors is Dr. Aiden Sandoval Cervantes, author of Oaxaca in Motion, an ethnography of internal, transnational, and return migration. We've joined Dr. Sandoval Cervantes in his office in UNLV's Wright Hall to talk about some of what we're seeing on area sidewalks and streets. Today's street food vending in Las Vegas seems to pull from a mix of cultures. What are they?
Well, I think mostly from what I've seen, I think it's mostly people coming from Latin America. I think specifically from Mexico. But I think it's something that if you've been anywhere in Latin America, you'll recognize as something that happens there as well. It's even more common in Latin America than here. If you go and you buy any of the food they're selling, you'll see that they're mostly Spanish speakers.
Has Las Vegas always had street vendors with food carts at traffic intersections, or has this increased more recently?
I have to say that, well, I moved here from El Paso in 2019. And when I got here, I didn't see that. And I'm originally from Mexico, where this is something that's very common. So you notice it once you start seeing it, right? Because it becomes much more visible. And when I moved here in 2019, I didn't see that. I think perhaps during special occasions, maybe Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, I think that there were some people who occasionally would use these dates to sell gifts or different stuff. But I started noticing more after the pandemic, especially I lived in Henderson, near Sunset Park. So I would go to Sunset Park with my daughter a lot. And that's when I started noticing these like multicolor umbrellas that people use to sort of signal their presence, right? They move from different playground to different playground, sort of rotating in the park. And they have a lot of the products that you would find in Mexican parks, for example, fresh fruit, especially mangoes that are prepared on site, and different just sort of salty and sweet food um, that people, especially in the summer months, really think they really need to stay hydrated and and to eat something, and that's when I started noticing them. After sort of when the pandemic restrictions started loosening up a little bit. And now I see that there might be a little bit an increased presence, especially in intersections. I mean, the parks make a pretty natural environment for people to sell food, especially big parks like Sunset. But more recently, I think I've seen them in intersections, which I think maybe it might signal a change in the presence overall of these of street vendors, right? Because intersections require, I think, a special ability to be alert, to be aware to people who want to buy your stuff, and you have a very limited time frame, right? When you're in a park, it doesn't matter, people wait or they leave, right? But you're not in a hurry. But once you're in an intersection, I think that requires a special ability and to be aware of your surrounding in a way that I think it's a little bit more complicated.
What is the reason that the intersections are attractive to these business owners?
I think in a lot of cases, especially big intersections, offer the opportunity to showcase your products to a lot of different people, right? So if you have a place in a strip mall, for example, you get that traffic, but people don't always have to pay attention to what's on the sidewalk, right? They have to pay attention to what's in front of them. And I think in a lot of these intersections, you get a lot of people who have to stop, who are watching their surroundings, who you get to promote your product. And in a lot of cases, I mean, they can be flowers, which I've seen a lot, which I think might be something that is you decide in the moment that you want flowers, or maybe you forgot to buy flowers for your significant other, or whatever, or you just think they're nice looking and you buy them. In other cases, if you sell food, especially I think during the hot summer months, people are always looking for ways to stay fresh, to stay hydrated. And I think the intersections offer that opportunity for vendors, to showcase their products to a lot of people and to have this sort of captive audience, right? That has to be there for a few minutes during the red light. However, I mean, it gets tricky because there's often lots of cars. You have to navigate through them. People need exact change to pay for these things. At least that's what I think. So it's complicated. It's interesting in the sense that they use the stop signs to promote their product, and to have the people who have to stop there decide whether they want to buy it or not.
These operations at the intersections, you mentioned, and I would agree that they're relatively new to the area. So maybe some folks in the community don't quite know how those exchanges even work. You mentioned exact change. Is there other etiquette that you would maybe recommend for folks buying and purchasing at intersections or in parks?
I don't know if there's an etiquette. I think, it's complicated, right? Because even if you want to do things quickly so as to not cause people to be stopped in traffic longer than they should have, like nobody wants to do this, right? But sometimes it'll happen that maybe you decide too late, or you looking for change while the light just turned green. And then, the vendor is in a tough spot because now they have to navigate moving cars and go back to the sidewalk. And they know how to do this, right? Like, they're experts, but still, it gets a little bit tricky.
Do you have any advisement for drivers who maybe they don't want to make a purchase right now, but they still want to treat folks on the sidewalks and the intersections with respect?
I would say, and I think, I would say this applies to to just driving in general, right? Be patient. If this happens, it shouldn't take longer than a few seconds. If you're interested in what people are selling, but not sure if you want to get it, you can always ask them to approach you and tell you about the price, about what they're selling. Like I said, how often you can find them there. So next time maybe you're interested, you can be prepared, right? But mostly I think it's important to be patient and to look out for people, especially at those moments when the light changes and people want to get home and it might get a little bit chaotic. Just be patient and wait for the person to get back to the sidewalk.
I think those are great advice, great thoughts, especially as, it's something very new and fresh. And I appreciate you kind of venturing out to share a little bit about how we can navigate this changing situation in our community. There's no doubt that Las Vegas is growing, whether we look at population or revenue or business growth. What does this increase in street vendors say about how our community is growing?
I think it speaks to the fact that people are looking for different options to earn a living, and that people have initiative, right? They're creative. They look for those spaces that might not be occupied, but that can be occupied in this very specific way, even if it's temporary, even if it's just for a couple of hours or during, again, Valentine's Day or Mother's Day or Halloween, right? So these specific celebrations where they know we all live busy lives. And sometimes having that, we're getting used to getting things brought to us to our homes, to get food delivered, to get our groceries delivered. So this is in a way another form of delivery, right? Just that it happens in the middle of the commute. And sometimes I think that can save us time. And also I think depending on, if we're thinking about street vendors at intersections, I think that's one thing, but there's also food vendors that in parks or in parking lots. I think that also sort of speaks to the way in which maybe what people are looking for, they're not necessarily finding it in the supermarket or in other places, or the quality might not be as good. If you want to buy tamales and maybe the tamales at the supermarket are not great quality because they're mass produced. And the tamales that they're sending on the parking lot, then they're a little bit better because it's a smaller batch. The elaboration is a little bit more careful, right? So I think maybe in the future, it'll also change a little bit how we think about how walkable the city is, right? And whether we can buy things walking, right? The city and a lot of cities in general have emphasized the use of cars to buy food. But this, I think, maybe in the future, if we get more street vendors, it'll become more walkable in some ways, or at least I think that might be something interesting to think about in the spaces that we give to these street vendors.
Anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
A lot of these products that people sell, it's often very good food. Like I said, I don't know if I talk about the mangoes, right? But I often get a mango in Sunset Park, and it's always perfectly tasty, and it requires skill to prepare it. I think people are sort of becoming more aware that this food is something that you can enjoy and that it's good food. Sometimes it's a little bit even more healthier than other options that you would get in a vending machine or somewhere else. So I would say that it would be great if people were more open to having this experience and interacting and getting to know the street vendors as well, learning where they work, right, where they're from, and also the different things that they offer.
If the traffic and the traffic stops are among the worst aspects of Las Vegas living, one of the best parts about our community is the food. We have a wide range of food options available across a wide range of budgets, and a lot of them are open late. All you can eat sushi, incredibly creative food trucks, fantastic Mexican food. It's one of the best reasons to call this city home. Does our food and restaurant scene have room for a growing street food sector? Are we watching the beginnings of it play out in the streets right now? Several years ago, in another city, I lived in a neighborhood that people called the bad part of town. There was no public transportation on my route to work, and it wasn't too far, so every day I would walk. And nearly every day, I passed a man selling teddy bears and stuffed toys directly in the traffic median of the first intersection in my morning route, also the last intersection in my evening route. We got used to seeing each other. We would exchange greetings. He told me I reminded him of his daughter, and he told me to be safe. I noticed when he wasn't there, and I imagine he did the same for me on mornings I didn't walk by. Just by occupying that same shared space for moments each day, he became part of my community, and I became part of his community. Though in total, we probably spent less than an hour together. It was the consistent repetition of the contact, not the quality nor the time. I wonder if the street vendors in the Las Vegas area have similar experiences. Is there a driver they always exchange a greeting with? Or somebody walking to the bus stop who stops to talk? Or a family who has made it a Friday night tradition to hail down the cellar for a round of refreshments? Or if not, would they even want it? Or would they prefer to have personal anonymity that many Nevadans seem to appreciate? Regardless of whether wanted or unwanted, personal or impersonal, caring or cruel, we cross paths. The intersection occurs. The intersection is an interstate highway off-ramp. The community is Las Vegas. I'm host Tashina Lascano. Join me for the next episode. We're going down to the courthouse, down to Nevada's largest general jurisdiction court, the 8th Judicial District Court of Clark County. Plan to tune in. Thank you for being part in the public good.